Welcome to the Launch to Impact Leadership podcast. My name is Dr. Keena, a leadership development coach, author, and former nonprofit administrator. I teach emerging leaders how to master the skills needed to effectively engage their staff, strengthen teams, accelerate performance, and position themselves for long-term success. Now, before we get started, be sure to tap that follow button right now because practical leadership insights are waiting for you in every episode. Trust is the currency every leader needs, and the next generation of leaders will not stand out because of their titles or their ideas. They will stand out because people choose to follow them because they trust them. That's what social influence is. Social influence is the ability to shape decisions, behavior, and momentum through trust, credibility, relationships, and communication without relying on positional power. Now, when we talk about social influence, we are not talking about influence as social media sees it, not clicks, likes, shares, followers, all of those things. We're not talking about influence as manipulation or some type of hidden agenda. We're not talking about the popularity aspect of influence. What we're talking about is influence from the perspective of ethical persuasion and earned trust. Influence is the impact you have on others when you are not around. Now, in an international global survey, 79% of employees surveyed said that they actually trust their employer. You see, trust isn't soft, it's measurable. And when trust is high, influence gets easier. Now, let's make sure that we understand why this is so important. Leadership in and of itself is fundamentally social. And the Center for Creative Leadership defines leadership as a social process that enables people to work together to achieve results that they couldn't achieve alone. In today's workforce, influence is critical for a number of reasons. It's critical because of the cross-functional work that teams are doing. And as a leader, you're not going to be able to be responsible for everyone simply because teams are overlapping and the people that you are working with may not be the people that you are responsible for. And yes, I am using air quotes. Influence is important and critical because of the fast pace of change that we have in our world now. You need to make sure that you have buy-in and adoption amongst your team member, not just a series of directives. You've got to make sure that people understand and are inspired by the direction that you're moving in. And then also because we have this remote or hybrid workforce, and clarity and relationships have to be much more important than proximity, because you can't just go to the office next door or the cubicle outside. Now you got to rely on all sorts of technical systems, and you also have to really rely and depend on someone being intrinsically motivated to get the job done. When there is strong social influence, it results in faster alignment, it results in higher commitment, smoother execution, and less friction. Now, if the next generation of leaders will stand out due to their resilience, perseverance, emotional intelligence, ingenuity, and social influence, it's important to know how these things will work together. Emotional intelligence makes your influence human. It helps you to read the room. It helps you to listen well. It helps you to manage your tone and to build trust with others. You cannot have your influence without emotional intelligence, or at least you can't have positive or successful or effective influence without emotional intelligence. You'll have some influence, but it won't be what you need, nor will it be what you're looking for. Resilience makes your influence steady because people will follow leaders who are grounded under pressure. Perseverance makes your influence credible because your follow-through is foolproof, and people despise inconsistency. In fact, inconsistency erodes or destroys your influence. Ingenuity makes your influence valuable. You are bringing options and solutions that people want to support. And it's important that you understand that emotional intelligence builds connection. Resilience builds steadiness. Perseverance builds credibility. Ingenuity builds value. And it is your social influence that will multiply all of it and bring it all together. Now, when you have a team member that lacks social influence, it looks like having those good ideas that just never seem to gain traction. Nobody wants to follow the ideas because they haven't influenced them. And influence is not about position. It's about the effect that you have on others. Lacking social influence looks like relying on escalation when they feel unheard. And I don't mean escalating their emotions. I mean, they're always going to a higher up or a boss or their own supervisor to get them to do something for them. So it's that person that says to you, can you tell them? Can you get them to do it? It's that lack of influence that you're hearing there. Lack of social influence is because their tone is blunt, or you'll see that their tone is blunt or defensive oftentimes. And or the other side could be that they're too passive to even be an advocate for anything or anyone. And so you're going to need to help those people work on their tone, because tone is going to shape how people receive them. Okay, put a pin in that for me real quick. Would you do me a favor and share a screenshot or post this episode on your social media accounts? And you know what? Go ahead and tag me too. I'd love to celebrate your leadership journey with you. When people lack influence, they skip relationships and try to logic people into agreement. They think that just because something makes sense, that everybody is going to get on board. Yeah, they might even agree with you that it makes sense, but simply because you lack your social influence, they don't want to follow. So what do you need to do to develop this influence or to strengthen this influence? Well, the first thing you have to do before you start acting is to make sure that you're diagnosing what it is exactly that's missing. So it might be credibility. It might be communication. It could be connection. If it's a credibility issue, you're going to see things like missed deadlines. So you want to coach their perseverance habits. You want to help them to finish their deadlines. You want to help them to have follow through so that they can build that credibility, so that people will be able to see that they have a track record of success. If it's a communication issue, you're going to see things like unclear framing and not really getting their message across effectively. So you want to help them with the way that they're structuring their message. You want to help them communicate the why. You're going to help them communicate the what. And then you're going to help them to effectively communicate what it is that they're asking of others. And that will help them to strengthen their communication. The why, the what, and the ask are the three pieces of communication that every leader needs to be clear about. If it's a connection issue, it's going to look like them having weak relationships. So you've got to help them to coach their routines with their team members or other stakeholders. That you want to make sure that they are investing in those relationships over time, that they have predetermined check-ins, that before they start giving directives or before they jump into the agenda, that they're checking in with folks, that they're asking how they're doing. They are making these check-ins, but they are not asking for anything in return. They are simply working on building the relationship muscle. And then once you've determined whether it's credibility, communication, or connection, then you're able to help with the action pieces related to the work. And so you're going to continue to have them to build the relationship and make trust deposits. Trust deposits look like keeping small promises, responding when you say that you're going to do or respond. You're going to have them to do things when they say that they're going to do it, which also means that they have to have reality related to their time and their availability. And people have got to be able to own their mistakes quickly. That's how you build trust. Your team members are going to see the mistakes. Your team members are going to identify and recognize what those mistakes are. But if you are not able to say, you know what, I did it, it was me, Here's how I messed up. Here's how I slowed down our progress. Here's the step that I missed. Your team member is not going to trust you. You also want to help them to have the clarity that moves people, and you want to help them to build their empathy. Again, before they're presenting anything, before they're making an ask, it is important to have relationship, but it's also important to have an understanding of your audience. And here's the thing, when you work on relationship building, it's easier to understand the audience. You want to know what your audience cares about. You want to know what is your audience's fears, and you want to know what your audience needs to feel respected or valued. And this understanding should be based on both your observation as well as inquiry. It's based on the conversations that you're having when you're checking in. It's based on the conversations that you're having when you're having your meetings. It's based on the conversations that you're having when you're problem solving together, but it's also based on your observations. Social influence is the bridge between vision and productivity. So make sure you have it, and then make sure you're using your social influence wisely. Thank you for listening to the Launch to Impact Leadership podcast. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Now, if you're ready for tools, coaching, or community to accelerate your success, visit www.launchtoimpact.org. My name is Dr. Keena, and until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building momentum.